I had a first question. I'm going to adjust my first question because we saw it there at the end of the credits. How many Indiegogo contributors?
Oh boy. I don't 600 and
A lot.
something.
It seemed
Yeah,
like a
there
lot.
was a
Yeah.
lot. But that I've when I see that wall of support, it's pretty formidable, and I think it's something that Hal would have loved.
That's what I thought too. That those are, you don't give money to make a documentary about Hal Ashby unless those movies meant something to you.
Yeah, they spoke to a lot of people. I mean, and also just in the last scene where he's talking about, like I want to have a studio where all I do is make movies and have my own control. And I was like, it could have been something like that. Like crowdfunding would have blown his mind, I think, as a democratized system of production.
Yeah, he would have liked that. So, uh, y- everybody who you put up there on screen, and I'm sure many of the people who got cut out, and many of the sound bites from the people who were included that got cut out, like I expect to see in a documentary. I know how Jane Fonda's going to sound. I know how John Voight is going to sound. They're going to salute Lou Gossett, some people I know, Lee Grant, who are going to say really. By the way, I'm Ben Mankiewicz. I'm host of Turner Classic Movies. Sorry. No, that doesn't matter. So that's why I know these people. And but who I did not expect to see in the documentary, and who sort of blew me away with everything he said and the way he said it, was Cat Stevens.
Yeah.
So that couldn't have been an easy process to get him to agree to be in this doc.
No, it was hard. I mean, we with all these guys, with all these people, it was a matter of just getting through to them, um, and which everyone can do. Eventually, you can find your way in, and then they sort of go, "Oh, you want to talk about Hal, like my old buddy Hal," and you can tell the joy that they all experience. Sort of, they light up or they get really emotional. So, like you said, there was a cast of characters like I know these guys. I know Norman's going to say yes, But Cat Stevens was such a Hail Mary. We're like, let's just try. And when he said yes, I mean, we were blown away. And then just sort of sitting in a room with him. Like eventually, I was starstruck. Every time I sat down with someone. Although I got better and better at kind of being cool with it, but not with Cat. It was really hard. It was like, oh no.
But it's also, there's a responsibility that comes with interviewing him, because it just doesn't happen
No.
very often. I mean, I'm going to embarrass myself in front of you guys now, but I told you backstage, he started talking, and I was like, he's English.
Yeah.
Like,
Whoa, dude.
I'm not alone. Some of you were like, oh yeah, that's right, because we just haven't heard from him in so long. So you had a connection through his band, but still, what do you think made him say yes to this when he clearly says no to so much else?
He says no to almost everyone. Their bond, the relationship that Hal and Kat had, was so intense and special, and I think that he's always, reserved a place for him in his heart, and he wanted to talk about his friend. Incidentally, we had these T-shirts designed, and said Ashby, an artist named Jess Rotter, made them. So we brought a shirt, we're so dorking out. Here's the shirt. And he got really excited, and he loved it. And then he ended up hiring her to do all of his tour merchandise. So it was so cool.
Music meant a great deal to Hal. It means a great deal in his movies. So, Heather, there was there's always a challenge when coming up with a score for a movie, but there was a different kind of challenge here, given Hal's reverence.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a musical guy, and I've loved his films for so long, and I'm familiar with how he sort of placed things and his thoughtfulness and just him as this consummate artist, that. I feel like this was a really special process. It was kind of lightning fast, but at the same time, we went so deep with it. It was a really emotional process, and I feel like that really spoke. We're grooving out and writing all these cool little Hammond organ stuff and playing a lot of upright bass and doing all that stuff. But I just really wanted to serve the art with that same passion that he did, hopefully, on some level. And it was great during some of our early screenings to know that people that knew him felt that we did a pretty good job, hopefully. It felt really important for us.
You killed it. It was a beautiful score. I was blown away.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of pressure and a lot of responsibility in no time. I mean, we thought we meditated on this film for like 6 years, but then when it was finally go time, there was a lot of sleepless nights on your end.
Rubber to the road, everywhere.
So you say 6 years. What was the ruminating part? How long did you spend ruminating, and then what enabled you to get going and complete it?
I mean, this is an independent documentary, so there's no money.
The money was just rolling in. Yeah.
No. So I was editing, I was doing side work, and I was busy having kids, and it just took a while.
That was a mistake. That was the mistake. Yeah.
This was my first child, and then I had 2 in the process. I mean, I had, it was so corny. I had this pitch, treatment, and I'd carry that around and try to talk obsessively to anyone that would listen to me about this idea years ago, and you listened very early on. And we approached the estate, and I think they thought I was crazy because I hadn't made anything yet. I was just like, I'm going to make this. And they finally bought in, or I didn't go away, one or the other. And then we crowdfunded. So we just kind of took it in stages, and crowdfunding only paid for X amount of production, but because I'm an editor, I knew I was like, I'll just edit when the kids take their naps and at night, and it might take me 2 years, and then it took like 5, but we're here. Yeah, it worked. It was cobbled together.
So did you have a particularly discouraging moment once that process began?
One discouraging?
Well, what was the most discouraging moment?
Oh my gosh. I don't even know where to start. I mean, it was a constant. I thought I was losing my mind. I mean, you go through the stages of grief, denial, excitement, whatever. And your friends are just asking about the project year after year. Are you still working on that? We got rejected from every grant that we applied for. We had financing that was several times. Somebody's going to come through with this financing, and then it would fall through after months. So, yeah, I don't know where to begin. I was just I wasn't sure what was going to happen, except that we're going to finish it. I know that. So.
You did know that. There was not a moment where you thought, we're done.
No. That was never an option. For Hal, once we started, we were going to finish. I just didn't know how long it would take.
So the obvious question is why, I think I know the answer, but why Hal Ashby? Why for you, and then why for you, Heather? Why is this something you wanted to be involved in?
I've always been a fan of his films and obsessed with that era of filmmaking in general. There's something about the way that he treats dialogue, and there's just a gentle hand that he has. And so when I was editing films, I always kind of had this what would Hal do? Ashby wouldn't make some goofy montage. There's ways that you can kind of, check yourself. And I did that for years. And then,
so when you were editing, you would literally think, what would Hal do?
My whole life, yeah. What would Hal do? And then when I was interviewing people, it was what would Studs Terkel do? So those two were my lighthouse figures. But and then I read a book about him, and I couldn't believe that there wasn't a film. I was Googling it to rent it, and it wasn't there. So.
I worked at a video store for a really long time, and I played in a lot of bands at the same time in Athens, Georgia, and so many of my music friends that I met were through Hal's films. So many people, if someone would come up to the counter and rent, being there, the list, had the stack and be like, friend, right. It's this immediate kindred sort of community that you just have right out of the gate, and I've always sort of felt that way about those films, and I feel really fortunate to be able to.
Do you know that you rented The Last Detail to me, in the 90s? Or no, 2001. Oh, I remember that.
Okay,
yeah.
We could go back and
I hadn't seen it before.
Were you guys friends then? Or?
Yeah.
We were friends.
Strange.
It's a beautiful film.
Thank you.
It feels important. Like you said, you Googled the Hal Ashby documentary and you couldn't get it. Well, now you can get it.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Thanks.